Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Michael Hall. We are going to recap the Ravens game against Washington Commanders, where the Washington Commanders fell short, 30-23. And the Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. Hall, I know this is kind of a tough day, but that being said, going 30-23, that missed field goal early on, obviously it was a blocked kick, would have made it a one-possession kind of tighter game there at the end, but ultimately couldn't stop Derrick Henry on that final drive to give the offense another chance. But before we get into the actual recap, going into the stats of this game, let's kind of just talk about your immediate feelings after it, Washington now falling to 4-2.
Yeah, can't be mad. I mean, there was a lot of penalties at inopportune times, which definitely hurt them. But to your point, defense couldn't really stop a nosebleed, couldn't make a stop when it really actually counted, when it actually mattered. Like you said, couldn't really stop Derrick Henry, couldn't really stop anybody. And on the wide receiver side for the Ravens, Zay Flowers had an all-time day in the first half. Your boy Rashad Bateman was getting busy on St. Juice as well.
My boy, that's your
But
boy.
but all in all, my takeaway is that we have ourselves a quarterback. We have ourselves one of them dudes. We have ourselves one of them guys that no matter how bad your defense is, he's always going to give you a chance. And yes, today the defense didn't really put him in position to give him a chance, but I mean, it comes down to they make a stop at one point in that game when we make it a one-possession game. They get the ball back to the offense. Anything can happen. And I just think going forward that, if this defense – I said it on the other day. I feel like this defense is getting to that point where they know that if they can make one stop and get the ball back to their guy on offense, he's gonna do something special with it. It just didn't happen today. Defense didn't have it today. Derrick Henry went crazy. Lamar had a field day passing. But all in all, not really as disappointed. Wish they would have cleaned some things up. But at the end of the day, it wasn't a blowout. And like I said, we got ourselves a quarterback, and that's really all that I can be happy with.
Yeah, right. Jaden Daniels, like you said, the quarterback, 24 of 35, 269 yards throwing and 2 touchdowns, which both of them were just masterful. Beautiful pass by
That last
Jaden.
one,
Yeah, the
bruh.
beautiful pass of the pylon to Terry McLaurin. The guy is draped all over him with his hands in his lap, and Terry is able to dive towards the pylon, be able to catch that and put it into his body and securing that touchdown. You know, it brought me back to last week when everyone was like, Terry's got to catch that football when he dropped that one touchdown pass.
Right.
Well, he made it up this week. But that being said, I think ultimately what this says is, like, the Ravens are a veteran team that has been together for a long time, right? Just more so meaning their overall structure of what they have there. Obviously, they added Derrick Henry in the offseason. But you could tell, I think the big difference here was the rushing attack. The Ravens overall had 176 yards rushing, with Washington only having 52. I mean, Jaden Daniels had 22 yards rushing, and he was our leading rusher on the day. Austin Eckler only had 9 carries for 21 yards, but he did have 4 receptions for 47 yards. So I think ultimately it comes down to being able to run that football, right? And when the Ravens got up, they didn't allow Washington to be able to do what they normally do to be able to control that game or to get back in it and to take the lead, right? Like, they had their grip on it, and it was very hard for Washington to find a recipe for them to be able to get back in position to get there, right? If that makes any sense. I think the opening drive out of the second half was probably very indicative of that, punting that football or kicking the field goal there. But, you know, you would have liked that before halftime. But ultimately, I think the boys competed. I mean, they kept fighting. They never quit. I mean, there were times I saw tweets in the third quarter saying, "Oh, it's over. It's done with. The game's over." Like, they kept fighting, man, and they could
Yeah.
have easily laid down at any point in time that second half, or
They would have
even
in past years.
yeah, exactly. But they didn't, right? And that's ultimately my point. But one of my biggest concerns is the time of possession, because of that rushing attack. Baltimore dominated with 36 minutes and 8 seconds, with Washington only 23 minutes and 52 seconds. And obviously, that goes a lot into the rushing attack, which bleeds into the third down conversions. The Baltimore Ravens were 6 of 10 on third downs, where Washington was 4 of 12. And I think it literally correlates to that rushing attack. So, looking at this game right now, what is one of your biggest concerns leaving it? Because look, this is no slouch. The Ravens are built very well. They do a very good job of containing the run game and forcing you to make things happen, right? But what are your biggest concerns heading out of this?
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, either number one or definitely top three, top four in the league in rushing defense. So it definitely showed and proved that today. Biggest concern I would say is, I mean, it has to be the secondary. I mean, for a for a wide receiver core that is not really lauded as one of the top in the league, it's actually looked at as one of, like, people say all the time, Lamar needs more weapons outside of Zay Flowers and like obviously Mark Andrews, which killed me because Mark Andrews hasn't really done anything all the season, and of course he
Mm.
comes alive today. But um,
It was
yeah, I
either
mean,
him or, if you're looking at it, honestly, it's either him or Isaiah Likely,
I know,
right?
but I mean, and look, a guy like Lamar, obviously, just like Jaden, is going to elevate all the guys around him. So he's going to make guys like Zay Flowers even better. He's going to make guys like Bateman better, and so far and so forth. But at the end of the day, my biggest concern is that secondary, and I mean that was obviously a bigger concern coming into the season. Um, yeah, I just think that even going back to last week, there was like still images and stuff that people showed where there was guys running free in the secondary last week against the Browns. It was Deshaun Watson playing like a bum, not really letting
Anemic.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, not letting go on the trigger for whatever reason. So I think that the secondary is a problem, but again, like I said, if they can just create some turnovers or maybe make a stop here and there, then we have a chance because I think our offense can move the ball on just about anybody. It's just about, the secondary is my biggest concern.
Yeah, credit to Dante Fowler for having 2 sacks, but I know that everyone is screaming about the secondary. And look, I understand where you're coming from. That was obvious that they were able to do what they wanted. Lamar, I think deserves a lot of credit for how he operated in the pocket in this
Oh,
game.
100%.
He just sat there. He didn't have to escape,
Slice
but
them up.
yeah, but Washington did a good job of containing him, a lot like the Ravens did with Jaden Daniels. It was very hard for Jaden to be able to get out of the pocket and rush upfield. A lot of those times, the Ravens forced him to either throw it out of bounds, throw it at somebody's feet, and they weren't giving him ability to rush upfield. But
Right.
Lamar was in that pocket just dissecting, and for me, one of the biggest concerns was the lack of interior pass rush. You have a lot of money divulged into that interior defensive line. And obviously, coming into this game, the Ravens were very good at being able to protect Lamar Jackson. But if you're going to allow that quarterback to sit there and operate in that pocket against cover twos or whatever, it's going to be very hard for our corners to stick with wide receivers, especially even if they get a hand on the wide receiver, it's going to get called as a flag. It doesn't matter. You have to be able to fluster Lamar, and that's what they were not able to do today in a large amount, exuberant amount, right? Dante Fowler had his 2 sacks, and you could see what happened from that. They were able to get off the field, but a lot of those times, what happened was the Ravens would commit a penalty. It would be 2nd and 15, and then they would just hit somebody over the middle, and it's a first down.
Yep.
A lot like what we've been doing to people over the past couple weeks. But it goes into that pass rush, and they weren't able to do it. I think I heard on the broadcast that Lamar was like 11 of 12 against the blitz in this game for over like 120 yards or something like that, because there was a lack of pass rush. Even when we were blitzing, it wasn't like we were flustering him very much. He was able to sit back there and do what he wanted. And so I think ultimately leaving this, the concerning part about it is being able to get after the quarterback. Because I think that defensive performance today was very reminiscent of what we saw last year, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. I mean, you lose Dorrance Armstrong early. I mean, like you said, Fowler did a pretty good job filling in here and there, made some couple sacks, made some splash plays. You lose a guy like Jonathan Allen. Newton steps in. Yes, he was making some splash plays. He was getting in the backfield, making some tackle for losses, causing some chaos. But to your larger point, I do think that it's the lack of depth in the defensive line, which we thought was a strength before. If a guy like Jonathan Allen's going to be down for a while, if a guy like Dorrance Armstrong is going to be down for a while, who was starting to come on and actually generate some pass rush from the outside, which was freeing up the guys like Deron Payne and John Allen to guys to get those one-on-ones and kind of win those one-on-ones in the weeks past. I think that it's definitely going to hurt the defense. So to your point, I mean, it goes hand in hand, like always. Pass rush and secondary go hand in hand. But to your point, if they can just generate the pass rush like they have the past couple of weeks, that will help the secondary out some on the back end, just for like another half a step in coverage or whatnot. But yeah, I think both of those are they're going to be concerns going forward. We'll see how Dorrance Armstrong and Jonathan Allen are, but yeah,
I think the tackling was very good today. I think they did a good job coming up, and I think Bobby Wagner led the team in tackles today with 12 altogether. Jeremy Chin was second with 8. Saw some issues with safeties. Obviously, Percy Butler on that Mark Andrews touchdown. Obviously, they're in cover 2, but you see Mark Andrews go around Bobby Wagner, and there's nobody on your side of the field. And obviously, you don't want to overcommit just in case that guy comes inside. But if you see Lamar starting to cock that thing, you better start going towards that outlet. And obviously,
right.
if he had made a beat on that ball, he would have possibly been able to poke it away or come down with it ultimately. And he was too late to be able to make a play on the football. So there was a lot of things to learn from in this game. But one thing you take with consideration here is as much as it could have been a lot worse, it wasn't. It was a one-score game, a missed field goal. Jaden Daniels didn't commit any turnovers. The offense didn't commit any turnovers. The penalties were a concern, but at the most part, there's a lot to learn from. But ultimately, I think a lot of credit to Mikey Samerstill for having sticky hands, having that first interception, and he actually did pretty well today. But
Yeah.
those same issues that we saw early on in the season against the Giants and the Bucks reared its ugly head again today, where Rashad Bateman is able to shake Benjamin St. Juste on that mesh. It wasn't even a mesh concept. It was Rashad Bateman running that slant, them having an out route, I think with the tight end, it might have been Likely or Andrews, where it just stalls Benjamin St. Juste just enough to create that cushion, right? And that's something where teams are going to hamper on that all season long when they're able to get you in that one-on-one man cover situation. They're going to run that drag route, that crossing route, and run that mesh along with somebody else all day long. And we
Yeah.
see today that it's rearing its ugly head, but ultimately, in my mind, it comes down to pass rush there. If you're able to force the quarterback's eyes down so he can't see that guy go to that outlet, then you're a better chance of being able to make a play on the ball or making a bad decision happen here or there. But look, they lost. They're 4-2, just like the Ravens. And this definitely did feel like a game where these are two very competitive football teams. And obviously, it felt like the Ravens were in the driving seat most of the game. But Washington still had a chance. And as much as you don't want to walk away as giving a participation trophy, you do feel better saying that we had a chance to win that if we just had one more possession given back to us. But this is where it comes down to the NFL is can you make that play happen? And ultimately, it never did.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, I said before the game, I'm never actually really a moral victory guy, but I would have been happy with a non-blowout win I would have been happy with a non-blowout win by the Ravens, like keep it competitive, keep it close, or them having a chance to win the game but shooting themselves in the foot,
Yep.
a la like the Giants game where they were in the red zone 6, 7 times, whatever it was, had to come away to all field goals. You convert some of those into touchdowns, it's a different story. So some of the penalties, like you said, were kind of annoying, alarming, especially on the offensive side when they're the most like inopportune times. Some of the defensive ones you could say were iffy, like the St. Juice one. There could have been some calls that didn't go our way that they should have called, but at the end of the day, it's not. It's never what. It's never really a refs thing. It's really like it's never really one play. It's never really one call the refs didn't or did make.
Right.
It's different plays throughout the game. But at the end of the day, like you said, they were competitive. Definitely had a chance to win the game. And yeah, like I said before, the defense they make one stop, it's a whole different ball game, and they get the ball back for Jaden Daniels. So we'll see.
Yeah, especially with that one Benjamin St. Juste on, I think it was Bateman on the
Yeah,
outside there, where it seemed like Benjamin St. Juste got flagged for Bateman tripping.
yep.
The Ravens DBs were certainly very handsy in this game, and
There's the one where they pulled Noah Brown where
right,
we didn't convert the third down, which I think that was kind of like the turning point because they had just scored. We needed to come down and get some type of points, or at least take some time off the clock and then get some points. And for us to go pretty much 3 and out, quick 3 and out, quick set of downs out, should have been a penalty to keep it at least moving a little bit the drive. But like I said, it can go either way. You lose some, you win some.
Yeah, and with that Benjamin St. Juste one is, yeah, obviously the refs did give them a first down. That was a 3rd and 5. They could have easily punted there, of course. But then the next play is that cover two where Mark Andrews is wide open.
Wide open,
The
yeah.
left safety turns his back to go with the post route, completely abandons that zone, right? And but that goes into my interior pass rush issue there. Because if you're able to fluster Lamar, keep his eyes down, he's not able to sit there and diagnose that defense. And anytime you're in zone, we all know this. If you give the quarterback time to sit there and look, he's going to find somebody open. And that's
Yep.
ultimately what happened there. And so this is probably, I said this to my pastor because we were texting during this game. And this is probably the first game that we've seen since Tampa Bay where the team seemed out of sync defensively and offensively. And that hasn't usually been the case. Usually, like the Bengals game, it was the offense was in sync all day. I mean, they were just humming down the field anytime they wanted to. This game, they were stuttering a little bit, and credit to the Ravens for being able to stifle them. But I think this ultimately goes down to third downs. The Ravens being 6 of 10 on third downs. The penalties, Washington had 6 for 46 yards, and the Ravens for 3 for 33 yards. And I think that ultimately is the difference here. But the question we had from Arch in the Discord, I want to ask to you. We kind of already answered it, but let me see if you have another thought coming to mind. What was the difference in this game?
Um, yeah, I would say it was the run defense. Honestly, like we talked about, kind of being able to like stop Derrick Henry from getting downhill, getting the ball rolling, hitting the hole with a full force of steam, and then getting to that second level where, I mean, obviously it's going to take more than just one or two cornerbacks and guys in the secondary to take him down, or not getting to the next level until he gets to the linebacker level without getting a hand touched on him. We talked about setting up that wall and kind of like stifling him at the line of scrimmage before he gets his feet really like going downhill. And I would just say that they did a good job in the first half for the most part. Here and there, he had broke some runs, but I think the second half is when he really started to gash us.
You know,
And
that's their mo though, Hall. I
yeah,
mean, I
no,
said it.
you said that coming in, and the second half is when the defense is kind of beaten down a little bit more tired.
Yep.
Just keep feeding him, feeding him, feeding him. Eventually, guys are going to be like, all right, I'm tired of hitting him so much, and I'm tired of him hitting me so much. And that's not really what happened today, but it was just guys were so tired on the defensive side of the ball because they were just controlling the clock, like you said before, time of possession. So I would say that, yeah, Derrick Henry getting a full head of steam in that second half was definitely kind of the downfall of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I said that on Wednesday. That seems to be their MO is later in the game is when he gets rolling. That's certainly what happened on that last drive. Right? And there was the second to last drive by the Ravens. They line up strong side. So they got multiple tight ends to the right and they run a toss to the left, able to pick up a first down on a 2nd and 8 after like we're trying to get that ball back in the
Right.
fourth quarter. But like that goes to what happens with Derrick Henry is they're saying, okay, toss to the left. You got all your guys sitting there on the right. We're going to take advantage of that and force somebody to make a play. And ultimately, Derrick Henry's big ass is nobody like it's hard to be able to get out there. Frankie Louvu kind of had a bad run on it, but he was able to get after Derrick but not bring him down. But that's where the kind of game plan goes into this. And them being a veteran squad, they've been here before, they've played in big games, right? And they really did have a grasp on this play altogether. And I think this is a younger team in the sense of being able to take control of things because it's easy when you're up big, your quarterback's making plays, you're able to run down the field, big plays are happening for you. But this was big boy football. And somebody had to come up and make a play, and obviously Bobby Wagner was able to do his thing and be able to get after Lamar Jackson at times and bring him down when he needed to. But they needed a big play from somebody, and nobody on that defensive line, and besides Mikey Samerstill, nobody was really on top of their game today. You could say, ultimately. And what was the big difference for me in this football game? I think is the third downs. Washington continued to shoot themselves in the foot, especially getting even or negative yardage, putting themselves in bad positions on those third downs. They've been very good on third downs all season. Fourth downs are a completely different story, but I think the third downs was the major difference, and I think the running game goes a lot into that and being able to get after Lamar. and create chaos in the backfield for him. Because if you're able to put those defenders in front of his face, things can change. But he had a lot of cushion whenever he operated in that pocket. There was a lot of yardage in front of him. He was able to sit comfortably, be able to diagnose what he wanted, especially on those downs. And that's not a recipe for success. They have a long way to go. But this is why Dan Quinn and company have been saying you got to learn, and they have those honest Mondays, right? Even after wins, they still have those honest Mondays because this sort of thing is going to happen where you might think that the ball's rolling, there nobody could stop us, sort of thing. But then here come the Ravens playing big boy football, and this was, I thought, honestly. That being said, I thought the team really responded well. As much as we didn't get the stops that we needed and everything like that, it was still a football game, man. This wasn't 42-16. This was 30-23. This was really was a knuckle bar fight going toe to toe, and they just were able to get one little jab in when we weren't expecting it at the very end there. And that's the difference going against a very established team that is used to this sort of caliber of playing football. And you see it that the Ravens are a playoff team. They're going to be going far, right? The next
Right.
question from Arch was, you know me, 1 week at a time, but has your outlook on the season changed after that game?
Um, no, because I still think that even before this game, I thought that okay, looking ahead, even if they lose to the Ravens, you drop to 4-2, okay, whatever. Not to like look ahead, but you had the teams like the Panthers, the Bears, and I want to say the Giants coming up. Two out of those next three wins are definitely possible with the Giants and the Panthers. The Bears look like they're picking up a little bit of steam, gelling together pretty nicely. Caleb Williams is starting to look better and better week by week, kind of like Jaden has. So, yeah, my outlook hasn't really changed as far as like this game. It just makes me think that only thing that's really changed as far as my outlook is we have a quarterback that can put us in the position to basically go toe to toe. I feel like with any team in the NFL because he's always going to give us a chance, no matter how good or bad the defense is going to play. The defense plays good, that's a bonus, as you see against teams like the Browns, or the Cardinals, teams like that. Where we just demolished them because the defense stepped up and played pretty well, and then the offense did their thing. So I do think that my only outlook to change on the season is we actually do have us like clearly we have a franchise quarterback, and we just need to keep him healthy and get him all through the season and build from here around him from here on out.
My outlook hasn't really changed. It's almost resolved in a sense of this was a very good football team that they faced. But I also have to be realistic in what they were able to do against the running game. Obviously, the Ravens are very good at stopping the run, but teams are going to adopt this sort of mindset in attacking our style of run game. I do think that the running out of the shotgun, the delayed runs, hampered us in this game. Where if you see Austin Eckler taking the ball to the backfield on a dive or a power play, he's able to pick up those 5 to 6 yards. But when they do the halfback draw, when they do that kind of time consuming kind of run, it gets stifled in the backfield. They're stopped short, right? And the kind of getting what is the word for it? Getting sweet kind of with the running game, it drew them backwards. The runnings with Jaden Daniels keeping the ball when he should have given it away, right? That those sort of runs were much more so of the smash mouth is something that is a concern looking forward because you want to be able to have that established. And I thought that they did a good job, but they need more mixed in there. Obviously, the offense could do a little bit more, and that's why I expect them to do it. And then defensively, it's getting after the quarterback, and that my outlook has changed. Obviously, last week against Cleveland, they were able to get after Deshaun Watson, 7 sacks on that day. Very good job by them. But you saw in this game, it was a completely different animal. When you're off balance, can you continue that? And that didn't happen. And so, looking forward, when you're going against these high-powered opponents, that's going to be concerned. But can you say that Carolina and others aren't going to have this sort of ability with their offenses against our defense, adopting the Ravens playbook? And this is where Joe Witt, Cliff Kingsbury have to get smart. They have to adjust. They have to adapt to what's coming because of what was done to them today. And I know Dan Quinn knows this. Dan Quinn is obviously seeing it himself, and they're going to make those adjustments, which is a godsend that he is here. Because in past regimes, I feel like they would just keep going with the way they're doing things, and that's where it could be becoming an issue. But I think they're smart enough to know the adjustments that have to be made in order for them to be able to have that sustained running game to help Jaden Daniels and company. Jaden, Obviously, I have all the confidence in the world at this point. He could have had one interception, but obviously it wasn't caught. But he did a very good job. He didn't put the ball in harm's way. This was a sticky secondary that was holding a lot, and he was able to put the ball in places where only his wide receivers could catch it. Was able to move the chains when we needed to, still score points, and in the red zone, even when we got knocked backwards, still able to convert those points. That's huge. That's a step in the right direction. That's a lot bigger of a step than we had against the Giants, right? So I feel really good about this team that they can go toe to toe with some of the big teams out there that is nationally attributed and talked about a lot. But there are areas that they have to adapt, they have to get better in. But ultimately, even with the lack of running game, they were still able to hang. And I think that is very important to take into consideration that even though their wide receivers could pop off, even though they can go down the field and score, we're still going to be fighting for this thing at the end of the game. And I think that is a very, very awesome thing to see personally.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree. Now, the next question we have is from the Discord. This one was from, I think, Yam, I think asked this one. Hold on. Trying to find, oh, no, Tim Towner. Benjamin St. Just and Forbes and Jamin are not the answer. Who else are we playing now that have no future prospects here and are only playing because we do not have anyone better?
Um, I mean, you pretty much named those three. Trying to think of anybody else. I would say that a guy like Cleveland Farrell, I would say, is getting like a lot more reps than maybe he would if we had like a premier guy coming off the edge, maybe like a first round pick rookie that was a disruptor, or like maybe like a veteran guy that they would get in free agency that's coming in with a little bit more higher pedigree than a guy like Cleveland Farrell that you know is going to be a double digit sack guy for you coming off the edge. But I mean, outside of the guys you named, I mean Noah Ives done pretty well. He stepped up and played pretty well. I mean, I'd say maybe Percy Butler, but even then, he's like made some plays here and there. But yeah, if I had to like, I know you're gonna say Percy Butler, but yeah, if I had to guess, or not guess, but if I had to say someone, I would say Percy Butler.
That's a really good one. He did not showcase himself going above and beyond today. Obviously, Benjamin St. Just did not have the greatest of days. He was picked on and he was looked at. And as a number one corner, you don't necessarily want that, right? You don't want your number one guy to be picked on to go after. And we know very well what OCs will do when they see blood in the water, they attack it like sharks, and that's what they were doing with Benji at times. And but they weren't really going after Mikey. And I think Mikey did a very good job. So I think if you ask the coaching staff who they say the number one corner is on the outside, I think they'd be willing to say is probably Mikey at this point. But I think the safeties altogether are not playing the best football. Obviously, Jeremy Chin had a very good couple of weeks. Same with Percy. But obviously, there's some hiccups there. I think you did. I think you named them very well. Obviously, Jamin and E-Man not playing in this game. I thought E-Man not playing in this game was probably a good thing just because of the heavy set that they were going to be coming out on
Yeah,
offense.
yeah.
You don't want him having to absorb because those are big bodies, right?
You really want him trying to set the edge with Derrick Henry coming downhill? Like,
Right,
nah.
and that's ultimately my point. But with Jamin, with Jamin in that same breath, would you pick Fa Obata over Jamin? I think you would, because of the body size, because of that weight, that differential there is probably where it is. But you could have used that spark, especially with Armstrong going out. Jamin Davis could obviously have helped you immensely. So who else? I can't really think of anybody, to be perfectly honest with you. At this point, I think the special teams did a very good job of being able to do what they needed to do. Alamati Zacchaeus taking that punt return and being able to bring it up to almost the 50 did a very good job at that. But I think you perfectly laid it out. Bobby Wagner responded the way he was supposed to. Frankie kind of got lost a little bit and everything just because of what the Ravens were doing. They took him out essentially, but he deserves to come back without a doubt. So as much as I would like to say Benji and other stuff, I think that the lack of pass rush did not help the secondary whatsoever. I don't want to pick on these guys too bad. It's they need to learn from this and understand how good teams are going to come at you. And I think Pete Medhurst did a very good job on Wednesday, saying this is what opposing offenses are going to want to do. They're going to want to suffocate that time of possession, keep the ball out of Jaden's hands, and
Yep.
control the clock and control the scoreboard, which is what the Ravens did today. It's just you need somebody defensively to make a play, and nobody on that defensive line really ultimately did that in that second half to be able to do that for you, right? A question that I personally have for you, I saw Grant Paulson, another tweet this, about the lack of fourth down attempts, especially when we're down in their sort of territory, the fourth and fours, the fourth and fives. Did you think that Dan Quinn should have went for him there?
Um, Trying to think exactly like where they were in the game, but I mean, it all comes down to they got an analytics guy that's up in the booth that's telling them like in his ear, like, hey, like here's the probabilities on this. This is like the da 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 da. This is the math on this. These are the numbers on this. Percentages, blah blah blah. And obviously, at the end of the day, it comes down to Dan Quinn making a decision with his gut and what the information we're given, plus what his gut is telling him. But I don't really have a problem with it because um, it's week 6. And like, yes, obviously you want to like win every game that you go out there and play, and you want to be aggressive. Like a lot of people, a lot of people applaud Dan Campbell with the Lions for being really aggressive, going a lot of on fourth downs and da 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 da. But you go back to the NFC Championship game last year, you just go and take the points and not be so aggressive. They're probably playing in the Super Bowl, so it's a give and take. It's a thing, and it's a type of thing where where are you at in the game? What's the score? Da 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 da. But I don't really have a problem with it because they're 9 for 9 on fourth downs this year so far. So I get like, hey, you're good on fourth down. You have a guy that's a dual threat, especially when it's fourth and like manageable fourth and shorts. He's a dual threat, so he can kill you both ways. But I also get the fact of, hey, it's still a one possession game. We're still in this game. I don't want to put us out of the game by us not converting it and then, put our team at a disadvantage. So I don't really have a problem with it. Now, if it's week 12, 14, 17, 18, we're fighting for a playoff spot, something, we're fighting for something, whatever, it's a playoff game, then yes, I want you to be a little bit more aggressive because there's more at stake and more on the line. So you got to pick your spots to win, to be aggressive, and when not to be aggressive.
I understand what people mean by that because the defense was not going in a sort of direction of being able to get stops. And so if you're down in their territory, if you're on that side of the field, close to sniffing their side of the football field, you take advantage. We've been good on fourth down. We want to continue that going. That lack of aggressiveness, you could say. But I understand where their mindset was of essentially where last week Derrick Henry got stopped short on a goal line, not a goal line, but it was on their end zone. Like basically they were on the 2 yard line, and they ended up becoming a safety. And so I can understand Dan Quinn and company saying, "Do we trust Tressway to put this ball in the 5, but can we able like is there a chance that we could possibly get that safety there and get the ball back in a quick amount of time?" And I understand everyone's point of view on this. I get it. I do think that they should have at least one of those probably gone for because they have been so good on fourth down. You want that would have built some more momentum for the offense to be able to go get those points. And I think there is validity to the fact of that our defense wasn't able to really stop them. They had multiple 90-yard drives in this game, and I think they're probably right that we should have gone for one or if not both of those. But it was still a football game, and it was competitive as hell. And credit to the Ravens for being able to run it down our throat, essentially. And that's what they did in this game. They did a very good job. 16 passing first downs. Washington also had 16 passing first downs. But ultimately, that aggressiveness, I will agree, was not truly there. And you would have liked to see that because going against the Ravens, you have to fight fire with fire. You can't be timid. And I understand that completely. And so I don't want to second guess Dan Quinn and company, but I'm sure there's a good reason for it. But that would have been probably a good
I would,
decision.
yeah, that's probably, you're probably right. But on the flip side, just to, just be argumentative, just to look at it from the other side of it, you talked about the defense not being able to stop nobody, like they can't make a play, so they don't convert it. Now you're already putting your defense, who can't
Right.
really stop anybody, at a super already disadvantage.
It's a good point.
And then, it's kind of like, okay, let's try to pin them, or let's try to like get them as far down. Let's kind of get them on their side of the field as much as possible. Maybe the defense comes up, maybe they make a mistake and kind of shoot themselves in the foot, and that helps us out. And so, like I said, you kind of play the odds percentages and whatnot. But look, I always like being aggressive and whatnot, and being, like I said, on the more aggressive side of things. And I definitely get the people that are saying the defense couldn't stop anybody. Why not try to at least pretty much make it a shootout like the Ravens did with the Cincinnati Bengals, or like we did with the Bengals, where it's just like, all right, your defense can't stop nobody. Offense, go out and do your thing.
Right.
Just you're gonna have to win us the game. So I do get that, but I also get the point of, like you said, it's not one of those games where it was like, how can I say? It's not one of those games where our offense was just going up and down the field like there was like it was just like easy, easy, easy like it has been. They were making us punt just like we were kind of making them punt as well. So I get where they are coming from. You can play both sides of it. Again, like I said, it's week 6, so and it's an AFC thing, so it's an AFC team, so it's like it's not really going against your conference record. It's not a division foe. It's early in the season. You can kind of see where they're coming from on the long term type of things. Now, like I said, if it's later in the season, it's an NFC team. All right, yes. Now I want you to be more aggressive because this is going to be long term playoff implications on the line.
Yes. Now to wrap this up, let's do game beers and chores. But because we lost the game, let's do chores first. All right. I know that we've already listed some names here, but who's getting some chores from you without a doubt deserves some chores.
I would say Andrew Wiley deserves some chores. He was doing pretty well throughout the season. Obviously, you're gonna have everyone's not gonna be perfect, unless you're like Trent Williams or those one of those elite All Pro type guys where you just really never giving up any pressures or sacks. You're gonna have some mishaps here and there, but it seems to be the same kind of mishaps that you see Andrew Wiley get beat, which is he's getting beat quick to the inside, which shouldn't be really be happening. I mean, you got help on the inside of you for the most part, so. Andrew Wiley had himself in one of those kind of Andrew Wiley-ish games that we saw last year. It is what it is. You had a good stretch of games, bounce back from it, learn from it, and come back next week against the Panthers and get back on the winning side of the game.
Yeah, for me, it's going to be Deron Payne. He didn't register a stat in this game. Almost a ghost, you could say. Jonathan Allen being taken out of this game with a pec injury. We don't know how serious it is. We don't know how much time he's going to possibly miss, but obviously he's not going to be practicing much this week by the looks of it. But Deron Payne and company, they needed to show up in this game. And this needed to be where your captains, your leaders of the team really step up and take advantage of the situation. Look, credit to the Ravens. They're very good up front. They've done a good job of protecting Lamar this season. But that being said, you got to have some knuckles on your side of the football. And with the lack thereof of those knuckles and being able to be a disturbance, to be chaotic, I think it deserves some chores in this breath. So for me, I'll say Deron Payne. Do you have another one?
I'd say Jeremy Chin, just from seemed like too many times it was looking in the backfield instead of really playing his zone and playing his man. There was a lot of too many times where you kind of saw him trailing on guys instead of really playing like not like sticky type defense on them, but like I said, you don't want to ever be really like you don't want to ever be trailing a receiver that you're supposed to be guarding for the most part. So yeah, I would say Jeremy Chin, and then yeah, but I mean, again, he didn't really have like that bad of a game, but it was just one of those games where he just seemed to stick out like a sore thumb on the secondary. Him and St. Juice.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. Don't really have many more because I think ultimately the whole team deserves some chores just by the sense of this. It's not like this was unattainable. That you did have a chance to win this, and obviously the penalties were a big issue. So obviously Benjamin St. Juice deserves some chores. Percy Butler deserves some chores for some lack of plays there, and the offense altogether. The penalties that did happen there are going to need to be addressed and need to be worked on. But like Austin Eckler, I thought did a very good job with the rushes that he was given, being able to get upfield, get the yardage that he needed to. Sometimes they were able to create those plays. So I think ultimately the chores also go down to the coaching staff. There were some questionable things that were called, especially offensively, that put them in bad situations. And so I think everyone deserved chores in that regard. But let's end this on a happy note. Any game beers, as much as there shouldn't be any game beers given out for a loss. Is there anybody getting
Um,
game beer?
yeah, I mean, you can do the obvious one. I would say Zach Ertz. Well, you can say the obvious ones, but I won't name the obvious ones.
Zach
I
Ertz, 4 receptions for 68 yards. He didn't have any in the first half, I don't
Yeah, I
think.
was gonna say Zach Ertz came up big in the second half. Obviously he's always a factor in the run game as well. But for him being a safety valve for Jaden, coming up on big thirds downs, big second and longs, first or third and longs, whatever it might have been, 4 for 68, and had a little bit of burst after one of those catches as well, which we haven't seen in a while. So I'd say Zach Ertz.
Yeah. Noah Brown deserves it as well, I think. 4 receptions for 58 yards. That one of the first catches he had on the sideline to be able to move the chains where he dove and caught it was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Right. And I do ultimately think that lack of penalty on that one, I think sometimes it seems like the refs will not throw a penalty on a play if the ball is like uncatchable. It's weird. Like, when he
Then they
did
turn around and do it when it is uncatchable, when it's not uncatchable
you
too.
know
So it's
you
like,
know what I mean? Like sometimes that does seem to be the case. Like if they're saying that you weren't going to make a play on it, they're not going to throw a penalty on it. Sometimes it just seems that way, especially on that
then
play.
they'll switch it up from pass interference to be like, all right, well, since it's uncatchable and it was clearly a penalty, we'll just throw holding in there and say it was a holding call. So
Yeah, it's just weird. Sometimes it just seems like they pick and choose which ones they call that on and which ones not
exactly,
to.
definitely a judgment thing, which is annoying.
Yeah, so I think Noah Brown definitely deserves a game beer, but Mikey Sanders still coming through with that interception, the first for
Right on
Washington.
cue.
Yeah, first one this season for Washington's defense, and obviously for Mikey having those sticky hands, bobbles it from Andrews. He's able to catch it and also get upfield. And Lamar Jackson was holding for dear life on him. He was not going to let him go. But Mikey, I think in this game throughout, actually did a very good job. 6 tackles and that one pick and one pass deflection. I thought he did a very good job. Again, this is not something that he does all the time. It's not what he did a lot of at Michigan. He did it a little bit amount. He played wide receiver as well, but very limited snaps on the outside coming up into this season. And I think that he is growing very well on the outside there. I
Yeah.
thought he should have been utilized on Zay Flowers a lot more, and it should have been Benji on Rashad Bateman a lot more, especially early on in that game. So I think Mikey would have done a very good job against him. But look, I'm not on the staff, you know what I'm saying? But I think Mikey is somebody that definitely deserves one. Anybody else?
Um.
It's two easy
Yeah.
ones.
I mean, yeah, you can say the easy ones, like I said in the beginning. Like I'll go with Terry, just
Yeah.
because
6 receptions, 57 yards, or 67, or was it 57? 53 yards and two
53. Yeah,
touchdowns.
2 touchdowns, 2 great catches on the touchdowns.
Yep.
Um, had a couple other catches throughout the game. Had the one great catch off the fake screen, throwing to him running down the sideline. Made a big boy catch like he usually does, Mister Big Tough Man Terry. So
Dude,
uh,
Kyle Hamilton popped him, bro. That
yep,
replay was harsh. Seeing
that's
Terry's
what I'm saying.
neck snap back the way it did, and he still comes out there catching
He just jumps
footballs and
right
touch.
back up, like, oh, I'm good.
Dude, he is the
But
goat, man.
yeah, nah, Terry's my man. Terry definitely, of course, like more times than not, deserves to kick his feet up and have a beer.
Absolutely. I thought Tress Way deserves a game beer.
Yo,
He
couple
had two.
pins deep.
Yeah, two of them that were just beautifully dropped to there. Obviously, the defense could not help out in that regard, being able to get some stops there. But my
He did his
goodness,
job. He pinned him deep.
he definitely did. But also the other easy one is Dante Fowler. 4 tackles and 2 sacks. He came up and ready to play. He did a very good job. He was so hyped up that he fell on his celebration. Not sure if you saw that. He
Yeah,
fell backwards. But ultimately, the game beers are a limited amount, you could say. But I think Jaden Daniels himself deserves it. He probably wouldn't give himself one, but the kid is very wise. He is diagnosing the field at an exponential rate. It's kind of insane to see the throws that he's making. The one that he threw to Zach Ertz over the middle on the goal line, which
yeah.
should have been a touchdown,
I
but it
know.
went to
I thought he
Terry.
was gonna get in.
I
Yeah.
know, but he threw it before Zach Ertz was even there. Tony
So
Romo kind
as
of
he was
talked about
coming
it.
out of his break, and
Yeah,
as a defender, or kind of trying to squeeze it.
Rokon was right there.
That's what I'm saying. Like, dog. And then the last touchdown, the Terry, where he just is fading back to throw it, where only Terry can get it as Terry's coming out of his break and out of that out route to the pylon. Perfect placement. He had perfect placement throughout the whole game. The one that Zacchaeus where he dropped it. I mean, to put it on that outside shoulder where the defensive back is coming in from the other side,
Yeah,
to put it here so he can kind of catch it, either tuck it and try to turn with it or tuck it and get down. Obviously, he didn't catch it, but like dog pinpoint. He was pinpoint all day to be for the most part, honestly.
he was, except for that one possible
Yeah,
interception. But
yeah,
that's
yeah.
like
Everyone, you know.
that's like that Super Troopers thing. Like, what's
Yeah.
that little guy? That little guy? I wouldn't worry about that little guy. But you're right, and especially right before the end of the first half, we had what 50 seconds to get down the field, one timeout, And Jaden was just a lightning and like a sniper out there, putting that where exactly where he needed to, getting that ball to Alamadi Sakias, who turns upfield, is able to dodge a tackler, get the first down, get out of bounds. Like those situations are incredible for Jaden. And I think that that difference happened in the Giants game, that last 2 minute drill to get down
Right.
the field for that field goal. He is very comfortable in that setting, and he is showing accuracy and fantastic vision at being able to get those guys the football and be able to get us down the field when we need it. Unfortunately, that was blocked, and that could have been a huge difference in this game coming out in that second half. But man, he is showing you everything that he possibly needs to. It's just you need some more answers offensively whenever that running game is taken away from you, which ultimately goes into my point that I was saying all offseason about having that consistent and constant running game. And that is my concern for the outlook going forward for the season. Yes, the Ravens are just first in the league against the rushing yards on defense, allowing they on average only allow 60 yards rushing per game, and today we only had 52.
Right.
But obviously they are unique in their own right. But this is something where you have to be able to get something out of that. Even though they're very stout against it, you gotta find ways and unique, creative ways to be able to move the ball through the ground to help your guy out just a little bit more. As
I
much
feel
as
like
the
I feel
defense
like
was
if
the issue.
yeah, no, defense was the issue, but I feel like it also B Rob being out was like a killer because I feel like he would have almost had that kind of Derrick
No
Henry effect.
excuses.
No, no, of course not. But I'm just saying he
You're
would have
right.
had that Derrick Henry effect as far as like he might not as far as like the first half, he may not be kind of getting the huge like busting out the huge runs or getting the huge gains or the yards per carry that you want to see. But he's kind of softening up that defense. He's sucking in the defenders to kind of open up the middle of the field and the passing game for Jaden as well. And I just felt like we were missing kind of that. Like Austin Eckler was all right, he was fine, but they didn't really use McNichols like at all. He had like one carry, but I just felt like we were missing that kind of that bruiser that we've had throughout the first couple of weeks of the season that has kind of softened up the defense and made them put an extra defender in the box to kind of guard on B Rob and the fact of Jaden maybe running to open up the middle of the field. So
Yeah,
hopefully B Rob is back next week.
Jeremy McNichols 2 carries for 9 yards.
So yeah, I didn't even remember the second one, but
Yes, ultimately you're right, and I think that that's where like attacking the perimeter with your run game could have been a lot more utilized. Obviously, because of the backs that we did have, they didn't shy away from the power football, of course, but those kind of delayed runs is what kind of nipped them in the butt a little bit. Kind of was a thorn in the backside for them. But ultimately, I thought that's where I think the creativity in the run game could have really helped them out a little bit. Obviously, they got in other previous games they got lucky with some of the breakoffs that's happened, and obviously it's not pure luck, but I'm just saying like those sort of plays helped them out a lot. And the
right,
Ravens aren't going to give up those sort of plays. But with Brian Robinson, because that's the Ravens face Derrick Henry every day in practice, that was a concern for me if Brian Robinson played in this football game, that they're used to that big body. Because I call him little Derrick Henry because he is almost like that body type where he is that bruiser later in the game. He does get that for you. So maybe to your credit, that later on in that game, that actually would have been something because, like, obviously the Ravens, you are what you are. And typically somebody can hit you with what you're about and it hits you in the mouth a little bit. And that
right.
definitely could have been something tonight that really helped them out. But look, today, but it was a game. They're 4-2. So are the Ravens. The Cowboys are currently playing. They're 3-2. Hopefully, they're not able to win this football game, and we could continue being on top of the NFC East. And because every day is a beautiful day as long as we're top of the NFC East, my brother. You know what I mean?
Hey,
And
we
so
still be on top because we still got that division one.
I know, I know. I'm just
Nobody
saying.
else does.
I know. I just don't want that gap to close whatsoever. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. It's been a pleasure. I was definitely screaming during that game at times. Terry McLaurin and Jaden certainly helped with that. You wish a little bit more defensively, but this was a damn good opponent, man. And credit to
Yeah.
the Ravens. They are about it. They certainly are. They are number one in rushing against rushing, and they did a fantastic job against the second best rushing attack on offense coming into this game, and they held us to 52. Washington
Yeah.
just has to be a little bit more creative in developing those, in my personal opinion. But man, hats off to them. They freaking played today.
100%. Hats off to the Ravens. Definitely, like you said, they beat us the way to your point of the whole B Rod conversation, like us maybe beating them with what they're good at. They beat us what we're good at with what we're good at, which is holding the ball, time of possession, converting on third downs, and your quarterback killing you in the passing game after you've already been bludgeoning them in the run game. So we'll hopefully get back to the swing of things. Got the Panthers at home next week. Side note, might be out there on Sunday, so we'll see about that.
My man, I hope you do go. Enjoy that.
Courtney's
Che-
been dying to go to a game, and we're supposed to go to the Steelers game, like with like Gavin and like my brother Nick and like whoever else. But baby's probably gonna be here by then, so we're like, all right. I was looking at tickets. I'm like, tickets aren't that bad for the, and it's a Daryl Green retirement jersey retirement. So yeah, I'm gonna look at some tickets. Maybe be out there, feet on, boots on the ground. We'll
Yeah,
see.
hope you should. And Steve Lim has teamed up with the Commanders to offer some tickets for that game. So if you want, go hit up Steve Lim and use
Nice.
their code. I think you get money off if you go use their code. So
Okay,
go
nice.
hit him up. Or if you guys are watching this and you're not able to make the Carolina game, if you'd like to be able to make Hall's time here and be able to help him out and hook him up with some tickets here, that'd be fantastic as well. But obviously, if you're not in a given mood, it's all good. If you want to go to the game, go to the game. But just trying to help my boy out here and his wife, okay? Because
I appreciate it.
they're about to be feeling it a little bit with a little one coming along. All right, everybody. We'll see you again on Wednesday. I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall,
And
and it's a shout out to Bears fans. Guess what? Your guy's gonna get Rookie of the Week. It's about time. Be happy. You got one finally.
what, dude? And it's fan voting based.
Exactly.
If you're gonna yell at anyone, be mad at your own people. Start
I hope they
voting.
I hope they don't win it. I hope he doesn't win it again, just to be like, ha ha.
What like that's what are you angry for? Calm
Exactly.
down. Be mad at yourselves for not having enough people vote. And it's unlimited vote. You can vote as many times as you want. What are you yelling about? At the end of
Exactly.
the day, it's literally a fan voting kind of thing. So just chill out, man. It's all good. Just enjoy the quarterback. We're just like you guys. We have literally. It's hard to have a franchise quarterback. It's something that we are both foreign to. We both have
Right.
one. Chill out.
Act like
It's
you've
all
been there
good.
before.
Exactly. My goodness. Need some adults in the room. All right, everybody. We'll see you on Wednesday. Washington football. Woo!
Peace.
What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.